Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, we're doing something very interesting. We're building an intelligent chatbot. So till now, we've built many Slack bots, but most of them have had a hard-coded command and response. But in this case, we're building an NLP-aware, completely intelligent Slack bot. So we'll be using 4 different technologies. One is obviously Golang, because we'll be writing the code in Golang. Then we have Slack to interact with the bot. Then we have Wit.Ai to understand NLP responses, and Wolfram to actually run the computational models and get the responses from the internet. Okay, so Wit is a technology that Facebook has developed. It's very similar to Dialogflow by Google or Lex by Amazon, and you can basically train it to understand different sentences. So for example, if I want to find out who the president of India is, so you can have different type of queries, right? You can ask him, you can ask the bot, who is the president of India, or who is the president of India now, or who's the current president of India. So all of these things, right? All of these statements, they basically mean the same thing, that who's the president of India right now, right? But then Slack doesn't understand it, Golang doesn't understand it. So Wit is the intelligent NLP part, where Wit can be trained with all these hundreds of different statements to understand that you're basically trying to say the same thing. So it basically creates like a confidence score to tell you that, okay, I've understood the query now, and I understand your question. So Wit is that NLP intelligence engine, right? And then once Wit has understood the query, you can send it to Wolfram. Wolfram is the computational engine. So Wolfram has the answer of who the actual president of India is. Wit doesn't have that answer. Wolfram has that answer. So Wit basically can be trained with hundreds of different sentences to actually understand what your query means, and then it'll send the query to Wolfram, and then we'll get the answer, and then we'll get the answer to Slack. So let me take you through the entire diagram of how we're going to do it. So the user will enter a message. It goes to Slack, and Slack then sends the message to our Golang server. Golang server then sends it to Wit. Wit then sends it again to Golang server, and from there we can again send it to Wolfram, because there's no connection between Wit and Wolfram and Slack and Wit, right? So our Golang server is going to be the connection between all of these things. From Wolfram, we want to send the response to Slack, so it has to go through our Golang servers, right? Everything, I'm sure, makes sense now. And there are going to be some packages that we'll have to use to interact with Wit, to interact with Wolfram, to interact with Slack. So Slacker is my favorite package. If you've done my other previous slackbot tutorials, I'm sure you know that there are many on my channel, so you can go ahead and do those as well. So Slacker is the package that I often use. So you can look at this, Somali/Slacker, right, on GitHub. So I've kept these tabs open because all of these are important to us. So that's why I've kept all of these tabs open, right? I'll take you through all of these one by one. So Slacker is the wrapper on top of the Slack Go package, which is a wrapper on top of the Slack Bear API, right? So this is like a third level abstraction of how we can build a Slack bot, and this makes our job very, very easy. So that's why I always use Slacker. So now that I've shown you this, I can cancel it out. I can close that tab. Then we'll be using WitGo. So the story of WitGo is basically, there's this video on YouTube by Mr. Alex. So he's built a Go and Wit AI Slack bot. So very similar to what we're doing right now. But this was built in 2018, and this sadly doesn't work anymore, because Slack, the way Slack APIs work, that has completely changed. Earlier, you used to have a Slack bot that you could directly add to your Slack account, but now you can't do that. I mean, you can do that, but it's being deprecated, and it doesn't have all of the accesses that you need to run this program. So you have to go through the new way, which is creating a Slack app, and then and then turning on socket mode, and then turning on events, and subscribing to events, and subscribing to and giving it OAuth permissions. It's a longer way to do the same thing, but sadly, that's what Slack is moving towards. They want the complete OAuth route, so you can't do it this way anymore. So this video, if you follow this, it won't work. So that's why I'm creating this new video, which will work now. And so when Alex built this, right, so he didn't have the right Wit.Ai package. So if you can see here, he says nlopez/Slack. So he's using a Slack package that also doesn't really work anymore. I mean, at least from what I tried, but maybe it's working. Maybe there's a different way to use it, but I couldn't get to use it, so I'm using Slacker. So we're trying to do what Alex is doing, but we're completely changing the entire approach, right? So because we're doing a 2021 approach, because we're using the new way of building a Slack bot, we're using the new way of building Wit.Ai. Since 2018, Wit.Ai has completely changed. Wolfram has completely changed, right? So this doesn't work anymore. So, but one good thing that Alex did was he went ahead and built a Wit.Go package, which basically helps us to work with Wit.ai much easier. So he didn't have that in his time when he built this, and he complains about that in this video. But then he went ahead and built this entire package called Wit.Go, and that's what we'll be using in today's video to be able to send our commands that we get from Slacker. The user that he enters the command, we process it using our Slacker, and then we send it to Wit.Go, right? Using Wit.Go, we send it to Wit, and that's how Wit will process it. So Wit.Go, you can think of it as a wrapper around Wit's APIs written in Golang. So you can use this as functions. All you have to do is just call these functions that are written in Wit.Go. All right, and now Wit gives us some response that we need to send to Wolfram, right? But the response that Wit gives us has it's a really big JSON, and to process that JSON, it's quite challenging in the sense that if you know how to work with JSON with Golang, you know that it's not very straightforward. You have to use structs sometimes. You have to use unmarshaling and all that. So I found this package called gjson. So first, let me close Wit.Go. So I found this package called gjson. It helps you query JSON very, very easily. So for example, now this guy is a genius, obviously, so I have to give him that. So Tidwall, or actually there are so many more contributors than him. So these guys are geniuses because they've built a package that helps you take a JSON like this and then just access them like you would in something like JavaScript, right? Which is so simple. So if you wanted to get name, so inside this entire JSON object is this key value pair called name, which is an object itself. So you can, if you wanted name and last, you could just say name.last, right? And you could get access to Anderson. And if you have worked with Golang, you know how difficult it is to actually restructure a JSON object like this and then get an actual access to something like this, right? So so this library makes it very easy, and I'm going to use this in this video, and also in the future videos I'm planning to use this a lot more, so that will save us a lot of time, right? Building all these structs and then unmarshaling it and then trying to access this value, and it's a lot of work. So we'll use gjson, right? So since now that I've shown this to you, I'll just close it off. And to work with Wolfram, now Wolfram is a big technology, right? It has a lot of APIs. It's quite complicated. So there is somebody who has written a go Wolfram package for us. Now this looks simple, but as you can see, there's so many structs, right? All these different structs are there that help you to work with, that help you to basically translate or unmarshal the data coming from the APIs. And then it's a big file. It's just one file, but it's a big file, right? So somebody has done it for us. They're calling the Wolfram API and then getting all the data for us. All right. So all we have to do is just call the functions inside the go Wolfram package, like so. Right. So you can create a client. You can get query results. Simple and straightforward. So we'll be using go Wolfram, like I said, and we'll just close that off right now. And the other thing that we need to use, so you know that the way I manage environment, so I don't since I make very beginner friendly videos, I don't try and confuse you with trying to set your environment. So I just use os.set environment and os.get environment. That's I do something very, very simple and straightforward, but this is the right way of setting an environment. So you might also know that I'm also a Ruby developer. I've been a Ruby developer for many years, and ever since Golang, I started using Golang. I stopped using Ruby many years back. So this is a Go implementation of Ruby's .env library, which is a very, very famous and very, very popular Ruby gem, right? .env. Here you call them libraries, but in Ruby you call them gems. So this is very, very popular, and this lets you manage your environment variables very easily, right? So all we'll have to do is we'll have to create a .env file, and we'll put all of our keys there, and then we'll be able to just load it simply with go.env.load, and then we can easily use them with os.get and environment variables, right? So this also means that I won't be pushing my environment file into GitHub. So you need to create your own environment file with your own API keys. So pay attention when I show you how to get your API keys, because that can be confusing to some people, right? So this is the Golang, the Wolfram portal. Now, one thing that I have to tell you about Wolfram website is it's very slow. It can be a frustrating experience to work with it because the website somehow is stuck in the the early 2000s. It's not a new website. It doesn't work like a modern website would, and the API is also kind of shaky. So obviously the Wolfram Go package makes it easy for us, but I'm just telling you because if you can see this, it's still loading since yesterday actually. So don't get frustrated. Just try to be patient. And also it gives you only 2,000 requests per month. So and you can make only 20 apps at one go. Otherwise you'll have to upgrade. So just make sure you stay within those limits if you don't want to pay a lot of money to upgrade. All right. And I have created these two projects here. So if you want to create a new project, you can just go ahead and say get an app ID. And before that, obviously, you have to create an account in Wolfram Alpha. You have to sign up, and then you have to head over to developer.wolfram.alpha.com. And as you noticed, I clicked get an app ID a long time back, and sometimes you have to refresh it. And sometimes, very weirdly, it would have logged me out, but no, not today. It has not logged me out till now. So anyhow, so I'll just click it again. So now it's asking me for my application name. So I'll say new NLP, all right? So I'll say new NLP bot. This is the YouTube demo bot. If you don't give a description, it won't let you create a new app. So I'll say create an app. So it has given me this app ID, but I won't be using this app ID. I'll be using my old app ID, the one that I had created yesterday, which is the NLP bot. The Wit.Ai one, which has already has 13 total queries. The reason for this is very simple. With Wolfram, if you've not waited for 24 hours, it won't let you use, as in it gives you a lot of errors sometimes and unpredictable type of errors. So it says invalid app ID or some error like that. So I looked it up on Stack Overflow, and the answer that I found was that you have to wait 24 hours sometimes, or at least 12 hours for the API to work correctly. So if you create an API key right now, the chances are you won't be able to run this program properly, and it'll say error app ID invalid or something like that. Okay, so that's the thing with Wolfram Alpha. I know there are a lot of quirks with this. So basically, just remember to get your app ID from here, and that's all. That's all you need to do at Wolfram Alpha website. Right, so just copy and paste it with yourself. And then let's come to Wit.Ai. So here you'll have to log in using Facebook because it's a technology built by Facebook. So we'll say continue with Facebook. It takes a while. So I have all these bots built up, and now we'll create another app called new app, and let's call it then. I already have a new NLP, so I'll just say Wit.Ai. I'll just call it YouTube demo. All right. So remember to keep it open, and we'll say create, and language is English. And now it has a couple of things on the left side, right? So you have your intents, entities. So we'll go to intents. We'll create an intent, and we'll call it. Let's see if there's a Wolfram intent already. So there's no Wolfram intent. So we'll just call it Wolfram. And next, right? So we have this intent. Now we'll have to create entities. So we'll create an entity, and we'll find a built-in entity. So we'll look for Wolfram. So the integration between Wit.Ai and Wolfram is so deep that they actually have an entity called Wolfram search query. So Wit.Ai would come to know that this is a Wolfram search query and needs to send it to Wolfram. So it'll give us in a relevant format. So we'll say next. And now we have our entity set up, and this role is added by Wit.Ai themselves. And now whatever you send it to Wit.Ai, right? These will show up in your utterances. So we won't actually write utterances and train our Wit.Ai right now. That's not the scope of this video. You can find thousands of videos that train your Wit.Ai or your Dialogflow bot, right? We won't be training it. We'll be sending it very straightforward questions that will just identify as a Wolfram query and send it forward. So for example, if I said who is the president of India, right? So with 92% confidence, it is understood this question, right? So we don't have to train it right now, that means. So but if you wanted to train it for this same query with multiple different statements, you could do that, right? So anyways, we won't be doing this. Like I said, we won't be training it. We'll just sending it straight queries, which will directly send to Wolfram. So now that I've shown you the go.env package, I'll just delete that. I'll just close that tab as well. And I've shown you this video, which doesn't work anymore. So we'll close it. So we won't be using any of the packages that have been used in this video. We're completely rebuilding everything from scratch. So we'll close this as well. And we just need to keep our, these Wit.Ai and Wolfram tabs open, just in case you need your app ID. So yeah, I've not shown you how to get your app ID in Wit.Ai, right? So all you have to do, I think, I don't remember correctly. Yeah, you go to settings and you will take your server access token. This is the one that you want to take. All right. So just copy and paste that, copy and keep it for now, at least. Then let's go to our Slack. So Slack, I'll have to go to api.slack.com/apps. And here, if you have done my previous slackbot tutorials, which there are plenty of, you have built all these bots with me, and today we are building another bot from scratch, and we'll call it the YouTube demo app, right? And I'll select Multech as my space. So it's called YouTube demo, and you have to switch on the socket mode so that it can catch up messages in real time. So we'll say enable, and we'll call it the socket token generate. And you need to save this somewhere and keep it. And but I'll come back for all of these API keys, but you can keep them somewhere safe if you want. And then we'll go to our event subscriptions. We'll have to switch these on, and we'll have to give it some events to subscribe to. So we'll say app mention, because we'll mention our bot, and then we'll say message.im. So these are the events that the bot will subscribe to, so that it comes to know when something is happening. So like let's say somebody mentions the bot and sends it a message, it will come to know, right? So I'll just say message.groups as well, and I will say message.npm. And I think that is about it. I don't need to add any more events. So always the trick with Slack is add more events than you think you'll need, and add more OAuth permissions. So we'll come here and we'll add some OAuth permissions. So for now, I'll just save these changes. Changes saved. Now let's go to OAuth permissions, and here we have to add some more scopes. So these scopes were added based on the events that we subscribe to, but we have to add more scopes, right? So again, with scopes, the trick is to take more scopes from OAuth of Slack than you need. So for example, I need this one here called channels read and chat write, because I wanted to be able to write to a channel, right? And I will say I am read and I am write instant message. I am basically stands for instant message. And I'll say npm I am and npm read and write as well. I might not need most of these permissions, but I'm just going to keep them anyways. Like I said, so if you've seen one of my previous videos of Slack, you know that a lot of errors happen because you don't have enough permissions. And Slack, the problem with Slack is it won't even give you errors, the right errors, right? So you'll keep struggling with the error for a long time, and you won't know what happened because you won't get the right error. So, and most of them are to do with permissions. In the sense, your bot just won't work, and you won't come to know why it's not working. So I think I have all the permissions that I needed, and that is about it for me. And I'm going to install it to my workspace, and asks me if I can give it these permissions. I said allow. So now it's given me a bot user token. So this is important, and in our basic information, the Slack the socket token that we created, and that's important, right? So it's called the YouTube demo. Just remember that. So we'll have to refer it, right? We'll have to mention it in our Slack channel. So if we go to our Slack channel and I say YouTube demo. So his YouTube demo is not in this channel yet. So do I want to add it? I'll say yes, add to channel. So add YouTube demo to this channel. Only then we'll be able to interact with it, right? Now, what we'll do is we'll actually start creating our project. So I'm not sure if you can, yeah, I think you can see my PowerShell. So even if you're on Windows or which is I'm on Windows and I'm using PowerShell. So even if you're on Ubuntu and using terminal or Mac using terminal, the commands will be exactly the same. So what I'll do is I'll say mkdir and YouTube demo NLP. All right. So I'll just go inside that. And here I'll say go mod init and github.com/akhil/ NLP bot. So the mod file is initiated like this. So if you're from a JavaScript background, this is very similar to npm init. So it creates a mod file which contains all the package that we'll be using in this project. And this is the direct the absolute link that we'll use to access other files in our project. So I'm not sure why the enter is not working on this. Maybe something to do with my internet. Yeah, so it has created a mod file. Let me just check. Now what we have to do is we have to start getting our packages that we need, the external packages that we'll be using in our project. So you can give these inverted commas, or you don't. Even if you don't give them, it's not a problem. So you'll say github.com/crognol/go Wolfram. If you're from a JavaScript background, this is exactly the same as npm install, and this is the name of the package, and this is the GitHub link for it. So like you have the npm library, the npm website, npmjs.com, where all these packages reside. Golang doesn't have something like that, so you have to get everything from github.com, right? And what we'll also do is we'll get github.com/joho/.env, and when we'll also get github.com/ the slackbot library that we need, and we need the gjson, the one that allows us to query JSON with Golang /tidwall/gjson. Sorry, you have to write go get in front of it. And then the last one we need is Wit.Go, the one created by Alex. So we have all the packages in place, and all we have to do is open up our VS Code and start writing the project, right? And here obviously the file that you'll create is main.go. On top you'll write package main, you'll write import and import all the packages that you need. And here you'll have to write the main function. So if we'll say func main, and the func main will have quite a bit of code. And at the same time we'll have our .env file. In the .env file you'll have 4 things. So one is Slack bot token, then you have your Slack app token, then you have your Wit.AI token, and your Wolfram app ID, right? So Wolfram app ID, I've shown you how to get it, right, from where to copy it. I already have it copied in some place in my laptop, so I'm just going to come and paste it here. Wit.AI token, I've already shown you where to get it from. Copy and paste it here. And then we have our Slack bot and Slack app token. For the Slack bot token, you'll get that in your OAuth and permissions, you'll get your Slack bot token, and in your basic information, you'll get your Slack app token here in socket token that we created. The one that starts with XAPP is your Slack app token. The one that starts with XOXB is your Slack bot token. All right. So now that that's clear, I'm going to copy and paste my, sorry, I forgot to copy my tokens. So I'll just copy this. I'll say copy, and this is my Slack app token and Slack bot token. I have to go back to OAuth and permissions and copy it. So our environment file is ready. Now we'll have to import some packages that I know we'll use when we'll use context encoding /JSON. We'll use FMT to print out stuff, and JSON to work with JSON log, and OS for our environment variables. And as of now, I need /joho/go.environment, right? We need other packages as well for working with Slack and Wolfram and Wit, but I'll introduce them one by one. So in our func main, the first thing that we write is go.environment, and here we'll use the load function to load the environment file. Okay. Then we'll create a bot. So we'll say bot is equal to, so here we have to create a new client for our Slack bot, and that can only be done if you have the Slacker package. So we'll say github.com/shomali11/slacker. Okay, so let's create our bot. The bot basically will have slacker dot new client os dot get environment and Slack bot token, comma os dot get environment Slack app token. So these are the two things required for our bot. So let me see if the brackets have been properly closed. So we have an extra packet here by mistake, so I have to remove that, and there's one more extra packet here by mistake, so we have to remove that as well. So all the squiggly lines have gone away, and there's a squiggly line here with bot. It's saying it's declared but not used, but we'll use it soon, so you don't have to worry about that. And then there are squiggly lines with all these packages. You will be using all these packages soon, so you don't have to worry about them as well. Okay. Now, since we are in the process of creating these different variables, I think it's a good time to create our Wit.AI client and our Wolfram client as well. Or maybe I'll do that after a while. Anyways, so one thing that I have to do is I have to create a function called print command events. If you followed my other Slack tutorials as well, Slack bot tutorials, then you know that this function is simply to print out the events that the bot subscribes to. So whenever we give a command to a bot, it acts as an event and it publishes to the command line. We want it to be published to the command line so that we come to know what's happening. So we'll create this function now. So this function will be created above func main, and as you know, we'll call it print command events. So in one of the previous videos, I've already explained the inner dynamics of this function. Basically, you're passing command event here, and you'll say for event, we'll just range over this analytics channel, and we'll print the timestamp of the command itself, the parameters that it received, and the event name. So let's say fmt.println, we'll say command events, and fmt.println again event.timestamp, fmt.println again, say event.command, fmt.println, and event.parameters, like I said, and the event itself, and just an empty line. So our print command events function is ready. Now I had a couple of packages here, and when I pressed save, since I'm using this Golang plugin, it removes all the packages that I'm not using in the code, right? So by mistake, don't press Control S, because it'll remove all the packages that we had written here. But it's not a problem. So what this Golang plugin also does is that when I use a package here, it also adds it here on top. So it's a two-way street. Anyhow, so we have written our command for printing the events, the command events, and now we'll start working on our bot.command function, which basically handles the command that we'll send to the bot. But before that, we just have to write in some code that will help us stop the program when we wanted to. So we'll say context.with cancel. Again, this is standard code that we've written in all of our previous slackbots, right? Slackbot codes. So in case you're new to this channel, there are hundreds of, I won't say hundreds, but there are at least tens of slackbot tutorials. Do take a look, do check them out. Is equal to bot.listen ctx. And if there is an error, that means error not equal to nil, we'll say log.fatal, and we'll log out the error. All right. So like I said, this is standard code, and I'm using the log package here, and now it has installed the log package for me. It's imported that, right? Earlier it was giving a squiggly line here. So we have the outlines of our function ready, and now comes the main part, which you need to pay a lot more attention to. Sorry, it's the bot.command function, which basically helps us to understand the commands that we give to the Slack bot and then work with that. So we'll say bot.command, and here we'll put the command that we'll send to the bot, and here we'll say slacker.command definition, and inside command definition is where all the magic will happen. All right. So this function, obviously the bot.command function, is part of the Slacker library, and this is the syntax, the requirements of the function itself, and it has a description. So we'll say, let's say, send any question to Wolfram, and it has an example. Again, like I said, this is all coming from the Slacker library. It's not something that we are building up. All these are requirements of the Slacker library. So this is an example, right? Example question. These are both are static variables. These are just the description and the example of how this bot will be used, right? These are not dynamic. So we'll say handler. Handler is our function that helps us to work with the bot, with the different commands. And when I pressed enter, it filled in all these things for me automatically. So in case you're not using a Golang plugin and it's not filled in these for you, just make sure you get this right. Otherwise, this code will also be on GitHub, and you can easily pick it up from there. So we'll say query, which is a variable, and we'll say request So handler functions, if you've seen my REST API videos of Golang, you know that you have request and response objects, right? So request is what the user is sending to this function, to our Golang program. And in the request, you'll have parameters. If you've ever worked with REST APIs, you know what parameters are. So the parameter that we're looking for, let's say it's called a message, right? And here that means we have to give a query, something like that. So we'll say query for bot, right? Put a dash here. And to pass a param in a function to Slack, when you pass a param, you have to pass it like this. So we'll say message. And so what you're telling to Golang is that in the request, there'll be a param called message. So when we send a command to our Slack bot, it'll be like query for bot, and then we'll put a dash and we'll put the actual statement. And the statement itself will be captured inside query. And then this query is going to be sent to, wherever, like Wit.Ai and Wolfram. Now there is a there seems to be an issue here. I think we have to put a comma. That's what the VS Code is telling me. So I've put a comma here and the squiggly lines have gone away. So everything looks good. And query, there's a squiggly line here because it says it's declared but not used, right? Now what we'll do is we'll come here, we'll say client dot parse. Now client is going to be our Wit.Ai client, which we've not created till now. So I think before I create my client, what I'll do is I'll show you what the query looks like in the command line. So I'll say fmt dot println and I'll say query. So when we send this query to the bot, it's just going to print it out. And then let's also keep a response here. And the response will be very simple, it'll just be received. All right. Now reply gives us a squiggly line because R has to be capital. And now everything works except for this. I don't know why it could not import this package. I think we'll have to just run go mod id and reinstall it back again. So I'll just go to my terminal and I'll say go mod tidy. Even if I had installed the package, I don't know why it wasn't recognized here. So anyhow, this is what the code looks like as of now, and there seem to be no errors. So what we'll do now is we'll start this program. So we'll say go run main.go and let's see what happens. Okay, now we'll head over to our Slack and to our YouTube demo app. We'll say query for bot and we'll say what is the capital of India. So all we need to know now is that yes, it was able to get the message. So message now is what is the capital of India. So it's able to read it. It's also able to print it out, right? So everything works as expected. And this means we can now start writing the code. So now we'll create our Wit.Ai client. To do that, you need to create a variable called client out here. So let's say client and the walrus operator, and then we'll say Wit.Ai. We don't have Wit.Ai in our project, so let's get Wit.Ai in our project. So we'll say Wit.Ai, and the package will be github.com/wit.ai/witgo/v2. Now we had installed this package, but there's a possibility that Golang wasn't able to get it. It's okay, we'll again run go mod tidy, not a problem. So coming back here, we'll say Wit.Ai dot new client. we'll say os dot get environment and Wit.Ai token. Now again, the reason that why Golang is not able to get this for us is because there's some issue with my Go path, obviously. And since this is my Windows laptop, I won't try to fix it. I use my Linux laptop most of the times, so just bear with me when I run go mod in it. Don't worry, it'll install it back again for us. So here we have our client Wit.Ai, and it uses the Wit.Ai token in our environment file. All right. So far so good. Now it's giving us a squiggly line here because we have not used our client package, and that's what we'll be using here. So we'll say client.parse, and inside parse we'll write Wit.Ai ampersand Wit.Ai, sorry, in small. What's wrong with my caps? Wit.Ai dot message request, and inside message request you'll have to send a query, and the query will be what you get from here, from your Slack bot. So let me show you the diagram again. All right, the user sends a message, goes to Slack gives it to Golang server, and now we have to send it to Wit, right? So Slack has given it to Golang, which is query, and the query has to be passed to Wit.Ai. So I hope everything makes sense now. And here we're going to print this out. So we'll come here and we'll take these values in a variable called message, comma blank, and we'll print out the message here. So now we'll run the program again. I'll show you why I've done this. I'm not sure why it's telling me to get this package when I need the v2. And if I say command S and I run go mod tidy, I'll just stop this program for now. I'll say go mod tidy, and it has got the v2 for us, right? So everything works now, no errors here. So we'll run the program again. Oh yes, sorry. I'll run the program again. I'll say go run main.go, and here we'll say at YouTube demo query for bot, what is the capital of India? And it's able to get the message, and now this is the reply that's coming from Wit.Ai. This needs to be structured. I'm sure you agree with me that this needs to be structured, because this is not something that Wolfram will be able to understand. So we'll stop this program here, and I'll just open up the VS Code editor again. So the message that's now in MSG, we have to do something about it, right? So we'll say we'll create a variable called data. We'll put a dash here, the walrus operator, and we'll say JSON dot marshal indent. Basically, we want to convert that whatever response that you saw, you want to convert that into JSON. So this adds the right spaces and everything. So about 4 spaces is the right 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And this will add those. If you've seen JSON objects, you'll see that all of the key value pairs, they're covered in these type of inverted commas, right? So that's what the double inverted commas, sorry. So that's what the indent function does. So JSON is giving a squiggly line here. So if I put Control S, then it should give me the encoding.json package. Yes, so I get that. So there's only one error left, which is data, which is basically saying that I'm not using data. And I'll create another variable called rough, and I'll say convert whatever data I get into string format, and we're going to print out basically this rough variable. Now let's see what happens. We'll run the program again. And here we'll say at YouTube demo query for bot, what is the capital of India? It does say received, and here we can see that we get a nice JSON object that now we can work with. And the thing that you need access to is basically inside entities, inside this Wolfram search query, and inside that array, inside that object, inside the array, and inside value. That's what you need the reference to, right? And this value, this is the thing that we need to send to Wolfram. Now there is also a confidence score which is of 92%. So 92 divided by 100 is 0.92. So it gives a range between 0 and 1. So anything above 80% or even 70% is good. And we could have taken our program further, and we could have checked the confidence score and then given the query to Wolfram, but it's not a problem since we have not trained our bot to understand these queries as of now. We won't, and our Wit.Ai AI is directly going to forward these queries to Wolfram. We don't have to worry about the confidence score right now. Okay, so you'll stop this program now, and it does give a little error, a problem time to stop it. And here you'll come back here again, and now you need access to this thing, right? Inside entities, inside this, inside the array, inside the object, inside value. Now to get access to this in Golang is very difficult. It's not like JavaScript. You just start accessing this, working with this object directly, because Golang does not have native support for JSON, because JSON is JavaScript object notation. So only JavaScript has native access to it. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable called value, because we need that value, right, inside entities, and we'll use our package, the gjson package. And with the gjson package, you can just run these get queries to get whatever you want. So we are going to run the get query on this variable called rough, and we want to say entities. So I want access to my entities, and I want access to this wit $Wolfram search query and colon Wolfram search query, right? So let me write that here: wit $Wolfram search query colon Wolfram search query. Okay, so just check if the spelling of Wolfram is okay. Looks good. And now we want to access the first value of this array, right? This is an array, so we have access to this now. We want access to this first value of the array. So we do that in an array, you do that by .0, right? Because that's the first value. So with this package, with the help of this package, you can easily access the values inside an array. So you'll say .0 and .value. So let me show it to you again. So .0, which is this object, and inside that is .value, and you'll have access to what is the capital of India. It's just as simple as that. Now what we'll do is we'll actually print out this value so that you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And now we'll go here again, we'll start the program again. Okay, so it's telling me to get this package, so let me go back here. Okay, again I'll run go mod tidy, and we'll run the program again. Okay, and here we should say again the same query for bot, what is the capital of India? Here you can see we got the value, the exact string that we want to send to our Wolfram. We have it here. We were able to access it using our gjson package. Makes sense? So with the help of this bot, right, we'll be able to send it these kind of questions like who's the president of US, who's the president of India, who's the president of US, what is the capital of India, who's the capital of China. It'll give us the exact right answers because Wolfram has the ability to process that kind of information and give the right answers. So let's see how it does that. Now I'll create another variable called answer, and this basically converts the value that I just received here into string. Okay, because string is what we have to send to our Wolfram client. Now that means we'll have to create a Wolfram client, right? So we'll come here and we'll say Wolfram client is equal to ampersand Wolfram dot client, and inside that, here in this case there will be these squiggly brackets, and we'll say app id os dot get environment, and we'll say Wolfram app id. All right, so it doesn't, our Golang program doesn't have access to this. So let's fix that. So it's added that already, actually. Good. And then it's giving me error here. Okay, I think I'll have to create a Wolfram client, actually. A variable called Wolfram client. So this I have to make sure the C is capital. C has to be capital here. And here I'll have to create a constant Wolfram client and Wolfram dot client. All right, and the Wolfram client comes from here. Everything looks good. Right. Now there seems to be an error here. I don't know why. Missing constant value syntax. Sorry, it has to be a variable actually, not a constant. So it's a variable. And yeah, so it has an error here, it has an error here in this place, and it has an error here because we're declaring it but not using it. So now I'll come here to answer. Actually, before that, let me just stop this program and go mod tidy again so that we get the Wolfram package. And now the errors mostly have gone away except for these two errors, right? The Wolfram client. So the Wolfram client we have to use right now. So I have the answer here in a which is basically string and the value in string format, and I'll say Wolfram client dot get spoken answer query. Now there's a confusion here that many people have, is that the person who's created this library, it should have said get spoken answer query, but it says get spoken and T. There's a small T here, so just make sure you write that T, otherwise you will face a lot of problems. So here we'll pass the answer, comma, the answer that we get here, and Wolfram dot metric, comma 1000. All right, and we'll assign this to two different things. One is the response and one is an error. And if there's an error, which means if error not equal to nil, we will print out there is an error, and the response, we will send our response object, the res, right? And to me everything looks okay, and there seems to be no error as of now, but only when we'll run the program we'll come to know. So yeah, everything looks good, and what we'll now do is let me check if there's any more packages to be installed. I don't think so. Okay, so let's run this code. Go run main.go, and to our YouTube bot we'll say query for bot, what is the capital of India? So it can reply to us the capital of India is New Delhi, India. And YouTube bot, query for bot, what is the capital of China? It takes a while because it goes to Wit and then goes to Wolfram. See, capital of China is Beijing, China. So as you can see, our bot can understand anything, you know, it's really, really powerful. So let's say query for bot, who is President of India? At YouTube, query for bot, who is the President of Brazil? So as you can see, our bot can do anything. It can basically find the answers for all of these very difficult questions that difficult in the sense not for human beings, or sometimes even for human beings, because I didn't know who the president of Brazil is, right? So you can get all of these answers from using your Wolfram API. So I hope you learned a lot in this video today, and you built something really exciting. And this is a very, very powerful bot. So if you're, by the way, if you're somebody who's looking for a job in Golang, I don't think there's a project that's better than this to show off your skills, right? Because you're using Golang, you're using Slack, you're using and these awesome packages, right? Environment packages and the JSON package, and you're using Wit, you're using Wolfram, and then the sky is the limit with Wit, right? You can, I didn't show you how to train your Wit bot, but you can, you can basically watch any other video on Wit. There are many videos on that focus on just how to use Wit, and you can actually scale this bot up to a whole new level, right? So I hope you learned a lot in this video, and we built a bot that can basically do anything, right? It's an NLP bot, and it's connected to Wolfram, so it can understand anything, it can do anything. So I won't say it can understand anything because we have not trained our Wit API, but if you trained it really well, it would be able to do anything. So if you want this kind of content, obviously do subscribe to the channel, and thanks a lot for watching. In the future we'll be having more such awesome videos.